What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for the next couple of months. I'm going to talk about why it's very probable for the market to potentially drop a little bit more before we see a very nice squeeze for November/December. Now, I'm not saying the market's going to run for the entireties of those months, but I believe it's going to likely respect a nice uptrend. I'm going to break down exactly why I still believe this, why it's still very probable. And we have some new developments on the charts and also on the data affecting the market to really cause this. On top of all of this, I'm going to be talking about Tesla stock, how this could affect Tesla despite what happened during its earnings report, why Tesla is still not necessarily going to just continue to crash for the next 3-4 months, in my opinion, why I think Tesla could still follow, but it's going to follow in a different manner relative to before. So I'm going to break that down too. Now, before I do anything like this, before I talk about the markets and what's going to likely happen to Tesla over the next few months based off technicals, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. This offer ends in just 11 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. So, what I'm going to do right here is we're going to ignore Tesla for now and just focus on SPY. And there are many reasons why I believe that the market, yes, it could drop a little bit more. It is possible for it to be a little bit more downside before we get some kind of like really nice bounce. And this chart right here is just like for the really short term. So I'm going to delete these for the time being. But I want to just break down that, yes, we could see a bit more downside for the short term. We could see SPY retest 420, if not drop towards that 417 to 418 area. But that is a very limited amount of downside, in my opinion. And I believe that we're going to see a massive bull run going into November/December. Now, it's not going to be in a straight line. It's going to be it's going to have some fluctuations, but I do believe there's going to be an uptrend. I'm going to explain exactly why that is because we have some new developments. First and foremost, look at the fear and greed index. We're very close to extreme fear, and sentiment is at a very low, more fearful level. People are expecting the market to crash. There's all this fear, there's all this FUD coming out, the yields are going up. People are expecting a crash, and just that alone will decrease the odds of it happening because when the majority of individuals are saying the market's going to crash, the fundamentals are so bad, and they think that the market's going to crash, the odds of it happening will go down. Now, why is it that the market could still run when the economy is not in the best of states? And the answer is, well, the stock market is not the economy. Okay, the economy could be in a bad state, just like what we saw in 2020, right? We saw those lockdowns, things were not good, and yet the stock market continued to run quite nicely in 2020, also in 2021. We did initially come down, but then the market came right back up, right? Even in 2021, we continued to just run and run. So the first factor is going to be sentiment. People are expecting a crash. Secondly, you have to remember that when the majority of people are expecting that, they're going to make moves based off this. So look at what's happening for the options chain for the markets. We have lots of high puts to call ratios. So I want to call this out because we were basically in a bearish cycle. This is what happens during these election years between August and October, right? The market tends to sell off and we tend to run for November and December. So I just want to mention that the options chain becomes a lot more prevalent because we're going to be respecting an uptrend and we're going to be entering a historically bullish cycle. So many people were expecting a crash. They were hedging with long-term options, long-term puts, and a lot of them are going to be expiring, right? We have a lot of high put to call ratios from 1.9, 6.43, 3, twos, a bunch of them which are very hot. And with all these shorts expiring, with all these short positions and all these shorts out there, I believe that there's a good chance that the exact opposite could happen now because of seasonality mixed with sentiment, mixed with the amount of bearish sentiment. To add on to this, I just want to mention that we're going to be looking at another big factor, and that's going to be the election. You have to remember that from a seasonality basis, I believe that the market started following this cycle as soon as July. So from July and beyond, I think the cycle's been very clear and it's been very precise. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So in case you're a skeptic and you don't believe me, just look at this. Okay, we're going to go all the way back using our hourly time frame on SPY right here. And notice what happened, okay? So we have basically June through where we are right now. from June going into July, and for all of July, or at least the majority of July, we saw a slight sell off near the very end of July before we continued to uptrend. Then we started to uptrend and uptrend and uptrend all the way through July. So we were basically very bullish from June to July, besides one little like sell off that we got. Well, what tends to happen during this period is in this June period, we tend to see like a sell off, and the market tends to start pushing in July. And this cycle kind of like perpetuated in the past. So this was very similar, right? And then August comes. Check this out, guys. August comes, we tend to see choppy price action. Then the market tends to sell off in August. That's what happens historically, and this is what happened to the market. We saw the sell off before one little push up approaching September, before a bigger sell off, right? And then if you look at this, what happens in August, we tend to see choppy price action. Then we tend to sell off more, and we tend to sell off even more in September, right? So the chop and sell off for August through September is what happened, or very similar to what happened in this chart right here. We saw a lot of chop right here in August, then we sold off. We pumped a little bit in September, then we continued to sell off as time went on through almost all of September, right? Similar to this, how we kind of like pump in September, then we start selling off for the very end of it. Now look at October. We tend to push for the first 2 weeks of October based off seasonality. Then we tend to be very bearish for the last 2 weeks. Well, look at what happened in October. First 2 weeks, we hit October, we rallied until about this like October 16th period. Then we started to downtrend even more. Then we started to tank pretty hard for the last 2 weeks, which is once again aligning with seasonality. My point is this trend is very similar. And this is what happens historically during midterm elections. An election year is a very special year. And for that reason, the market is still following this trend. Two more things I just want to add is because it's an election year, the market has a tendency of following similar trends. Now, if I was running for office, I would not want the stock market to crash, obviously, right before I'm about to run when I'm in power. If I'm trying to run again for a second election, it doesn't make sense to let that happen. It would work in my favor if I let the market run up, or if I find a way to, allow that to happen. Not saying it's solely for that reason, but that could be a factor that's worth noting. And we know how involved these individuals, these institutions are in politics. All right, I want to make that as clear as possible. Just a little hint out there. No promises, though. I'm not going to promise that with 100% certainty, but I'm just saying that it's something that's very probable. And then we have another big factor, and that's going to be our Elliott Wave technical perspective. So look at Elliott Wave, guys. You will see that we could draw out a 5 Elliott Wave count pattern. We had the sell-off approaching mid-August, got this little pump into September. Then from September, we basically just tanked approaching October, right? That's wave 3. Wave 4 happened during that bounce we got in October, and now we're in the final wave 5 for the bottom to be coming in. And typically when you hit the full Elliott Wave perspective, we tend to see a reversal in the trend very, very soon. So what's going to happen for November? In November, we tend to rally, sell off just a little bit, then we continue to rally as time goes on. But the bottom line about this trend is we're going to respect a very strong uptrend, right? Notice how in November we pump, come down, we pump, come down, we pump. Right, same thing here. We just continue to pump. And the downside we get could be very minor, and I think that there's going to likely be a nice squeeze coming as the market tries to rally. So all of this is aligning, right? The fact that all these people are shorting the market, expecting a crash, sentiment is so bearish, seasonality is saying that, hey, we should be running instead. It's all pointing in the same direction, right? The fear and greed index is pointing in the same direction, that the market is actually going to bounce when everyone is so fearful. And last but not least, the same thing I've been talking about on this channel would be this cup and handle on SPY and also on the QQQ. So I believe that with the Elliott Wave perspective, we've been selling off. We're forming a nice cup and handle. We could sell off a little bit more on SPY, but there should be a very nice bounce coming. And I could see this thing start to uptrend. And uptrend does not mean we're green every single day. We just start to like make higher highs and higher lows consistently. And I believe that the bulls are just waiting, and they're going to catch so many people by surprise because so many people are expecting a crash. Now, what about the Fed? What about inflation? Well, with the Fed, I just want to note that the Fed could give us another rate hike, but the market could be expecting it, as the market is already at these lows. And the second factor involving the Fed is the Fed may announce that they may pause soon. If the Fed pauses, right, they could, as many Fed speakers are saying, they could just keep rates high and just keep them there for an extended period of time. If they do raise rates, it could cause the market to sell off just a bit, but then balance because we're expecting that. So my point is, the Fed is going to pause soon, and this tends to be bullish for the markets, at least temporarily. Uh, until things start breaking, then yes, things could change in 2024. But for now, I believe that considering all these factors, the odds do greatly favor the market looking for like a rebound. So could SPY drop more for the short term? The answer is yes, it is still a real possibility. I just wanted to call out that for the short term, we could see SPY kind of like, maybe it bounces and then it starts sinking towards the final bottom, establishing a bullish divergence. And once again, let me just show you guys this. On the daily on SPY, we happen to have a bullish divergence developing. So if we do sell off a bit more, if this divergence remains, SPY should bounce. So it's all pointing the same direction, that this thing could start uptrending as time goes on. We're going to look for a really nice bounce going into like November. Maybe as soon as we hit November, we see a slight little sell off like this, but then we just continue to uptrend and uptrend as the month goes on. Don't forget, the market could pump really fast. It could really catch a lot of people off guard, and we could just see the market continue to squeeze for the end of the year for a very, very nice, strong rally. And I believe it still is on the table, it still is very probable. I know people are so fearful right now, they're panicking, they don't believe it. But when you see what is possible, things could still become very, very much a reality. So, yes, I think that the market's going to respect a very nice uptrend. I think I made this a little too steep, but you understand my point. I'm anticipating some nice upside soon. I think that the market is due for this. I think that a lot of people are going to be, really excited when it comes to pieces of news like this. I don't think the market's going to go up in a straight line. I think it's just going to be a nice uptrend as time goes on like this. But I'm sure you guys understand my point. I'm still holding pretty much the same view of the markets. I still believe that we're going to see a very nice monstrous run. And I think that the market needs a little time, but it's going to likely be what happens. So, yes, I'm still leaning in the direction of this still playing out. I still think that there's likely going to be upside coming. And I believe that, if you're patient, if you just give it time, do not fall for what the crowd is telling you that, there's going to be this huge crash coming this year. I believe that it's more probable that we should do the opposite of what most of these shorts are doing. So this looks kind of messy. I'm sorry, but you get my point. Now, to add on to this, okay, on the QQQ, the same factors I mentioned are going to affect the QQQ. The triple Q has been selling off quite a bit, just like seasonality. And we could definitely see something like this play out where it like drops a little bit more and then we get a really nice bounce going into November. Then we continue to see this thing squeeze because of the fact that when you look at the market, the QQQ on the monthly is still looking bullish. We have a nice cup and handle developing on the QQQ. The NASDAQ is also developing this. And I believe that they're going to try to push up the market for the end of the year. I believe that that's still very probable. And looking at different factors, I still see more and more evidence pointing that direction. So the QQQ could drop towards 350, could drop a little lower, but I believe buyers will step in and start pumping the markets all over again. Now, what about Tesla? How is Tesla going to move amidst all of this, guys? Like I said in my video from yesterday, we're going to be watching 200 on Tesla. Does Tesla hold 200 or not? It could still underperform, and I believe Tesla is going to be a little weak for the next couple of weeks, but we have some catalysts that could start helping this thing out. First and foremost, we have in just a few weeks the Cybertruck events coming out, and I think that the Cybertruck could still help Tesla attempts to bounce. I would not rule out its capabilities and how impactful it's going to be. Even though investors know it may not be profitable, there's going to be a lot of hype associated with it. So it could be kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news event where it pumps approaching the event. On top of that, the market as a whole is going to have an effect on Tesla because of seasonality. Look at how the market is moving alongside Tesla. They are selling off together in unison. I believe the market bouncing is going to help Tesla try to improve. But here's the thing you have to remember. We have a low price peers ratio, so Tesla's looking like weaker than before. So what this means is that Tesla may not squeeze as hard as it could have because of the bad news from earnings and things like that. It could still try to improve with the markets, but it may not be as strong as before. So when you look at Tesla, we're going to look at Webull just real quick. We have a very large inverse head and shoulders developing on Tesla. And I believe this is going to remain. So Tesla could drop all the way down to 180. It could still drop down and still maintain this inverse head and shoulders. Okay, it could still maintain the bullish structure, even if it comes all the way down to like 180. So my targets for Tesla are this. Basically, we're going to be watching 200. We could eventually sink down towards that level, maybe like bounce a little bit first, then start selling off. If we try to base around 208, we could see this thing try to come back up. But if we lose this area, we come back down to like 200. Tesla could try to base there. If we lose 200, right, Tesla could remain a little weak for a couple of weeks, okay? Could continue to last going into like very early November. And if Tesla loses 200, I would not rule out the gap fill for what, like 193, 180 technically is possible. 174 is the 0.618 retracement. There could be some downside for Tesla still, but I'm not going to worry about 180, 170, or anything like that until we break 200. And since we haven't broken it yet, I don't think it's going to be like my worry just yet. But it is possible. And here's my view. For the short term, yes, Tesla could still cool off a bit. It could be a little bit weak compared to the markets. But as the market starts uptrending in this November period, I believe Tesla is going to follow the market. But it's going to be very slow and a little bit weaker because of this bad earnings. So what could happen is we see something like this where Tesla basically, it uptrends, but it's very slow. So let's assume that the bottom is like at 200, right? It's a it's very low at this 200 area. If it's lower, we could always adjust this later. But hypothetically, let's just say the bottom is at 200. If that's the bottom, what could happen to Tesla is if the market rallies approaching November, Tesla could do a thing where it's very slow, very gradual, slowly uptrends like this. And then, when the market starts, if the market gets a sell off early in November, despite the fact that it's uptrending, there could be like a slight little pullback before it continues higher. Tesla could just trade a little sideways, be very boring, very gradual, and then slowly, very, very slowly uptrend with the market. It's just going to be a little bit weak, but I believe Tesla could still make its way to climb itself up slowly, especially as we approach the Cybertruck event. But it's going to be, like I said, very slow. It's not going to happen that quickly, right? It could still, sell off and remain in the very low 200s for some time. And then when we have the Cybertruck event, we might see more buyers stepping in. But I'm just trying to tell you, it's going to likely be very, very slow. It's going to take a while to really get up there. But I still think the market could help Tesla pump a bit. It could be a very, very slow recovery. It could take like over a month to a month and a half before Tesla makes its way back into like the 240 area. Before it happens, though, we could come all the way down to 200. If not, I mean, if it drops all the way down to like, 193 to like 180, depending on how low we go, guys, we have to wait and see if we break 200 or not. It could be very slow. It's going to take a while for it to get back up to these high levels. It could take like a month and a half to 2 months, but I believe it could still uptrend with the markets. I have not necessarily just backed out from my claim. And as crazy as it sounds, I still think the market's going to have a big effect on Tesla. I believe that fundamentals are not just everything for the company. I believe that buyers will still buy in at these lows. Institutions are going to be just taking up these shares soon. And I also believe that the Cybertruck event, the hype associated with the deliveries, and other factors could still help Tesla pump a little bit. All right. So that's my view of Tesla. So could we drop more on Tesla? Yes, we could see 200 if we continue to sell off. If we lose 200, then I would not rule out 193, 185, 180, then 176 as key supports, 176 being the 0.618 retracement. Even if it does sell off a bit, we know how much it could run. I think the market uptrending in November/December is going to help Tesla uptrend, but Tesla's going to be slower. It's not going to be as strong and as violent when it comes to its squeezing as what we've seen in the past. And I think it's going to be very slow. I do believe Tesla's going to make a full recovery, but it's going to take a while. And we'll just have to wait and see what pieces of news come out, what happens around 200, and we'll see how Tesla moves. But I believe, and I'm still holding my same view, Tesla will see a slow, gradual recovery for November/December. I believe that it's going to make an attempt to rebound. I believe there will be some bad pieces of news here, and they're going to cause some sell-offs here and there. But Tesla will recover with the markets. It's just going to be slower than before. Okay, I still hold the same view. Now, it's because of seasonality, these different factors. It's going to be because of the election year. You can't forget about that. It's also because of the algorithms, which are still going to take over as we start to see the market uptrend. Look at how Tesla's performed with SPY. These things are moving very similarly. Look at the QQQ next to Tesla. Both SPY and the QQQ have been selling off alongside Tesla. It's not just Tesla. And notice how when they bounce, Tesla attempts to bounce too today. Right? If you don't believe me, let me just show you the chart. Right? If you take the charts side by side, this is how similar the algorithms are, and I'm a firm believer in them. Look at how Tesla moved today, for example, right? It was a little weak compared to SPY, right? Basically, SPY sold off here on the right. Tesla sold off with it a little bit more aggressively. Then we got this bounce on Tesla alongside SPY. They bounced together. Then they started to sell off together. But SPY sold off a little harder than Tesla. So you guys can see the algorithm is there. The robots that are controlling this chart are clearly right there. Look at Tesla next to SPY just a few days ago. You could see SPY was a little stronger. Tesla was a little bit weaker right here. But look at the trend, right? They kind of came down similarly. We got this little spike on Tesla. They both came down here. They popped together here at the same time. Tesla was a lot weaker though, and then Tesla tried to rebound. So they can move similarly. SPY was down 1%. Tesla was down, like 9% after that earnings. So it goes to show, yes, Tesla can move with the markets, but it tends to make bigger moves. So what's going to happen? Here's my question: when we start to see SPY uptrend very soon, because the whole market is selling off. It's not just Tesla. What's going to happen when the whole market starts to bounce? Right? The market bounced today, and Tesla bounced with it just a little bit. My point is, it's going to recover with the markets. It may be a little weak, it may be a little slow, but it's going to make its way up slowly if the whole market is squeezing very hard. Do not let all the bears out there saying Tesla's going to crash to new lows, Tesla's going down to 100. Don't let them get the best of you. I still believe in Tesla, and I think it's going to recover. I think it's going to be a slow recovery, and I think that the Cybertruck events and these different things are going to help it out. Now, that may sound like crazy, but wait until the next few months. You'll come back to this video and see what happens. I still believe Tesla can recover. I'm going to not lose faith in it. And I believe that the market is going to have a big effect on it. And I believe that a lot of hype will come back alongside investors buying at these lows. That is my view for Tesla. That's my view for the markets. I believe that Tesla still has potential to recover. It's going to be a little slow, but it still can do it. All right. That's my view for Tesla. That's how I think the next few weeks are going to play out. And that's what I have for this video. So thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day. Enjoy the weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks again, and peace out.